Being online without having a VPN is like playing Shkodra Mustafi in a high line. You are just begging to be exposed. But with Surfshark, your digital defense is tighter than a Campbell-Gabriel partnership with a Vieira and Rice double pivot. Worried about trackers? Blocked content? Hackers flying in late like Christian Norgard on Martinelli? Don't worry, Surfshark covers you quicker than Fabrizio can say the same information 12 times in a row. That is very quick. Are you traveling abroad? Surfshark allows you to stream smoother than Saka running down the wing. No matter the region. And with unlimited device connections, your household can be more in sync than Prime Vengerball. Wilshere, Giroud, Wilshere, Surfshark! So whether you're home or away, don't play Ange Ball. Get Surfshark and stay secure, fast, and free. You can't be a fan of the best defensive team in Europe and have nothing online to show for it. So use my code TDK to get 4 months extra of Surfshark for free. Surfshark, defend your digital pitch. Welcome back to Marley Salmon. Date of birth, August 29th, 2009. Max Dowman. Date of birth, December 31st, 2009. What am I doing with my life? Arsenal are back, and much as I want to launch into some nerdy analysis of what felt like a narrower shape against Milan, more willingness to play it first time through the middle, finally, Zubamendi's qualities, Reece Nelson prop, and more, it was only one game. So I think we'll have to wait to build a better picture of the changes we're seeing in pre-season, even if they seem quite exciting. And anyway, far more importantly, the kit looked good. And isn't that the point of pre-season in the end? The boys are still out in Singapore ramping up their preparations with a tough test against Newcastle to come. So this video is going to be about the squad picture. Because after 5 permanent signings now confirmed, with a big one very close and some fascinating comments from Mikel recently, we've added players, yes, but I also think we've gone through a bit of an evolution in our squad building methodology. So of course we'll have a look. I think that meme's dead now, isn't it? Sorry. Mosquera, Kepa, Norgard, Zubamendi and Madueke are all confirmed additions, and we've had the here we go for Gyökeres, which leaves us looking a little like so at this point in the window with this lovely graphic we made earlier. Please put your tips down below, and yes, we do accept Amex. Generally, I'm really happy with this. Of course, there's still work to do with contracts and sales. I still think we need 1 or possibly 2 more incomings, and I'll give you my latest to-do list at the end. But I do think it's worth saying, overall, I think we're in a really healthy place with no glaring holes if we get everything done, I don't think. We spend so much time focusing on what we don't have, what the final 1 or 2% is going to be to get us over the line. But watching us against Milan, you remember how good we already are in many, many aspects. And when comparing this to other squads in the league and abroad, I see a really good level of experience, contracts largely in good places or being worked on, a good amount of youth, strong leadership, and much more going for it. But you can always get better in life, innit? And to begin to break this squad down in a bit further detail, the boss has already given us a guide. You may have heard Mikel talking about tiers of players in the past as a way of assessing and ordering a squad. He's said it a number of times, and while I could certainly be missing something in my search, the earliest I can find him referring to it publicly is in August of 2023, after the signing of David Raya. Mikel was asked in a presser whether it was a gamble to hope for a good reaction to Raya's signing from then number 1 Aaron Ramsdale. And he said, it's not a gamble, it's a necessity. There is no other way. Because when we were here last season, people were saying about the difference between tier 1 and what you call tier 2 players is too big. Then how do you resolve it? He also spoke about the tier system at the end of last season, nearly 2 years later. In May 2025, when asked a question in the wake of comments from Pep Guardiola saying he wanted a smaller squad at Man City, he said, I think he's discussing the optimal size of the squad, and then within that squad, everyone has to accept a role. I mean, they have 22, but which role? I have 5 fullbacks who all feel like they're tier 1, then we have a big problem. I suspect the tier system isn't something they stress massively to the players, as it might knock your confidence a little bit knowing for a fact you're a tier 3 player. Maybe that was Sterling's problem. But it is useful to know the framework of how they discuss the squad behind the scenes. Now, though, Mikel appears to be evolving away from that system. Speaking to reporters during Arsenal's tour of Singapore, Arteta shed a bit more light on the new methodology. Tier 1 means that they have the capacity to be starters, basically, but the Tier 1, 2, 3 system, I don't believe in that much now. The way the game's evolving, the demands we put in with 70, 75 games per season, at the end we want to build a team like other clubs already have, where you look at the squad and you cannot really identify who is going to play tomorrow. If we get to that point and that competitiveness has as well the right level of cooperation between the players, that's what we want. So why is this evolution happening? Why move away from tiers? And is this, finally, phase 17? First, something had to change in the squad building, because Arteta is bang on in describing Arsenal as a bit of an outlier in terms of their squad when compared to other big clubs in Europe and domestically. As long-term viewers will know, any critique of Arsenal from me often comes with many caveats, because this is a tough business and I don't pretend to know much about it. But this one doesn't. I've said it before. You can't go into a season off the back of 2 second-place finishes in a row with only 22 players registered out of 25 available slots for your over-21s, and basically only 2 under-21 players you might use depending on how they do, as we did in 24-25. Miles Lewis-Skelly took a big step forward. Maybe we expected Ethan Nwaneri to play more than 1,300 minutes, and you can't account for some of the injury luck, but it's unforgivable to me that we did that. And it massively contributed to the injury crisis, I think. Mikel mentioned we were short many, many times, indicating it wasn't something he was particularly happy with either. And now, with the volume of business we're doing, I think we've seen the error of our ways. People might get bored with me saying it, but it's such a basic thing, and other clubs just don't do it. You might say, well, Liverpool only registered 22, but the key part is that doesn't include Connor Bradley, McConnell, Jarell Quansah, Harvey Elliott, and so on, who didn't need registering but were already first-team players at that point, and that's before their less established U21 players. Or if a club did find themselves short, they rectified it in January, like City. I suspect we'll now end up hitting closer to the limit of 25 with the new signings. We have a now established Ethan and Miles. Christian Mosquera counts as under 21, which is great. I feel pretty confident Daumann might play some minutes in the Premier League and Champions League. And it feels like we have some more under 21 guys on the way that we trust too, and we'll need that deeper squad. So the numbers are evolving, but that's no good without quality. Mikel said tier 1 means they have the capacity to be starters, basically. So if I had to hazard a guess based on this old framework on how they see the squad as it lines up today, here is how I see it. Let me know if you agree or disagree below. I can't imagine some football rankings would create any debate, would it? Tier 1, Raya, Saliba, White, Gabriel, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Timber, Calafiori, Zubimendi has replaced Partey, Rice, Miles, Gyökeres and Havertz are the 14 players who I think Mikel would see with the capacity to be starters going forward. Tier 2, the guys just behind the team. Jesus, Mosquera, Nwaneri, Norgard, Kepa, Marino, Madueke, although let's see, as some insiders have said he's seen as a tier 1 signing. Trossard and Kivior, so 9. Then tier 3 is probably Sambi, Zinchenko, Cole Hein, Reece and Vieira, so 5. I do think we'll do another tier 1 signing. But for now, with this squad, is that enough to win stuff? How do you quantify that? I asked you guys on X, where you can follow me at AlexMoneypenny, how many players do you need to trust as starters, so tier 1 players in the old framework basically, to win the Premier League or Champions League in 25-26? And it seems the received wisdom is around 13 to 16. Maybe on the higher end due to the weight of the poll. So maybe 14 or 15 so-called tier 1 players is actually enough. Our boy Scott Willis did some data recently looking at squad usage. This channel would collapse without that man. Please go and check him out. And when comparing us with Liverpool and City, looking at total players versus total percentage of available minutes played in the Premier League and Champions League, and using their respective title-winning years in the last 2 seasons so we can see when it goes right, it seems as though, regardless of context, you win when you're able to get loads of minutes out of your first 16 to 17, and especially loads into your first 8 to 10. Arsenal had 20 players playing over 1,000 minutes last season compared to 17 for Liverpool's 24-25 and 18 for City in 23-24, and less minutes in those first 8 to 10 when compared to both. More minutes in better legs. So based on that, you could argue a fair goal for Arsenal is 16 to 18 players we're happy to start for us on a regular basis, and let's say the floor is 1,000 minutes for all of them. So do we have that? Maybe with the 14 we have, plus 1, see how Ethan develops, see what Madueke does. Does Jesus recover okay? Kepa and Norgard, maybe you trust them. And the rest of the squad are rotation or emergency. But here's the thing. Is this even the right question to be asking? Is this even the right way to view squad building anymore? I don't know. But more importantly than what I think Mikel has evolved past it. And he is my paymaster. So I must listen. Going back to his quote, 70 to 75 games sounds crazy, but that's Fede Valverde. He played 72 games in 24-25, 6,112 minutes in one season. Parking the "is that okay, are we ruining the sport" conversation. I don't know about you, but I, in theory, want to get to the end of every single competition and be involved in the Club World Cup and all these games. I want to make sure my players can, okay, maybe not play that many minutes, but withstand the hopefully growing number of games by getting to the ends of competitions. Also, and actually the far bigger factor, is the intensity of those minutes, which we speak about a lot on the channel. And every year, the league gets objectively more intense based on repeat sprints and high-intensity actions. The coaches talk about the competitive level raising, and more money for bigger and better athletes pours into the game. And then there's the quality of the games. Look at the quality of the players and the coaching in the Premier League and the Champions League. It's never been higher. Look who's rivaling who for players. Wolves and Barca battling it out for a player. Xhaka wanting to go to Sunderland. Here's one metric. Look where managers go when they leave the Premier League. De Zerbi goes to the second best team in France. Ten Hairs, second best team in Germany. Conte can't get a tune out of Spurs, wins the league in Serie A not long after. It's so tough to compete in this league. And we're not here to compete. We're here to win. Can we do all that with arguably 14 players we trust to start? And again, not just to be there, but to have the competitive advantage. Forget tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Do we need 25 players capable of being a starter? I'm being facetious. But if Mikel could have that, I'm sure he would. He's the manager, he'll always want more players. But perhaps that should be the aim. Now I'll change it, said Arteta about the tier system. And now we're going to have the capacity as well to decide who is in the best condition to play this game, hopefully. Because last year, no. It sounds like Mikel is aiming higher for what he might have called tier 1 players in the past than our poll. And there's also another evolution here as well. Mikel also said, hopefully this season is going to be very different. We can decide what is the best team with the best players to play against this opponent today. And then we want to change the game. The team, whatever the context is, winning, drawing or losing, we can change it immediately and have those players that can impact the result. So now the squad building has to facilitate a desire to change games more consistently and be more unpredictable. And I think the arrival of Gabriel Heinze is part of this. I think one of the big blind spots in kind of fan analysis is we spend so much time thinking about our team that we forget that there is an opposition. We forget that the club aren't the protagonists in everyone's mind. They're often doing certain behaviours to counter another team. And there's a clip going around of Heinze where he talks about one of the big ideas in his methodology being keen on swapping players out depending on the game and the characteristics of the opponent. Now, this isn't new for Mikel per se, of course. There's a quote out there which I can't find, but I know he said where he talks about studying the behaviour of opposition defenders to give instructions before games. But if Mikel is aiming for a squad where you can't identify who's going to play tomorrow, I think maybe we need a squad that can better facilitate more flexibility in profile selection between games. And have we seen that to its nth degree at Arsenal yet? I don't think so. So, the evolution. The coach wants more starters, more numbers. He wants more unpredictability. He wants less injuries. And he wants no more tiers because everyone needs to be good enough. Over to you, Berta. So how do we do that without turning into Chelsea or selling ourselves our women's team or something? You will always have the pillars of your team. For me, Rice, Saliba, Saka. So through the following, I don't want anyone to think I'm suggesting we're heading for some free-for-all where no one's a regular starter, man. It's just roll on, roll off, dude. I mean, the right wing slot is not up for grabs, is it? But when I look at this Arsenal squad and how we're evolving, I am beginning to see a squad building approach in some areas that aligns with those desires that Mikel has. A way that we better support those top 8 to 10 guys better, a way we become more unpredictable, a way we bump up the numbers on the list of those we trust to start in more out-of-the-box ways, all working within our budget, using complementary pairings, ruthless decision-making, smart fund allocation, and a sharp awareness of our flaws. As we sit here today, I don't know who starts more times next season between Gyökeres and Havertz. So maybe someone establishes themselves, I don't know. But what I think we've done to find a workaround with no Isak level ceiling raiser at centre forward necessarily, and before some of you kick off, the fee says it all, is we've found as complementary a pair as possible to produce the unpredictability, fitness outcomes and quality that Mikel is after in a different way. I don't think Gyökeres being so different from Havertz is a mistake. We've not signed profile symmetry here. And I think a big reason we went for him over, say, a Watkins isn't just goal tally big. It's that he's so different from what Havertz is, which is different to how we've approached things in the past. On the one hand, you have a facilitator, a box crasher, someone with incredible ground coverage, an intelligent presser, an incredible technician for his frame, someone who's probably a bit more recycle first and a lower shot volume in Havertz. And on the other, you have a channel running, high shot volume, eat up ground, push you out the way, chaos, I'm going to kill your grandma for a goal guy in Gyökeres. You have the squad size now, you need the support. So if you can't find your Zubimendi ceiling raiser, then make it up in the aggregate. Modern squads can take that and they need it. We know who the right centre-back is going to be probably, but the centre-forward can change depending on the game, the moment of the game, the impact of the game, the momentum of the game, anything. If you start with Havertz and you're 2-0 up against West Ham at home and Jared Bowen's on the transition causing problems, stick Gyökeres on and change the momentum. If you're in the Champions League and Gyökeres has thrived off those big spaces, you've now got them penned in, why not use Havertz's space creatory type qualities off the bench for a Saka or a Messi? Sorry, Madueke. We share the physical load, we add starters, we become more unpredictable, and we get closer to Mikel's idea. Another example of a complementary pair, Martinelli and Madueke. I was baffled with the Madueke name at first, but is it not possible that Madueke, who, despite his flaws, is absolutely excellent 1v1 and carrying, completing 4.12 carries into the penalty area per 90 across the last 365 days, putting him in the top 1% across Europe, and especially considering he's a left footer, is the perfect complement to Martinelli. For those games where Arsenal tend to collapse the middle and seem unable to create any joy on the left, doesn't it make sense to have a 1v1 specialist who is left-footed who can create that width, the stuff we've been calling out for with a overlapping fullback? It feels like the total opposite of Martinelli. And in fact, on paper, Madueke's superpower is the thing that I was really struggling with Martinelli last season, the ability to create from the touchline. But in more transitional games or games where we expect a lot of running down our left-hand side, we pick Gabby. We've also added genuine rest for one of our pillars in Saka. We've not broken the bank, we're more unpredictable, and again, we're closer to Mikel's idea without having to sign over Martinelli with a Leao or Barcola and spend hundreds of millions but not address other areas in the squad. We've been very specific about the complement to cover all bases. Mosquera's recovery pace feels really suited to certain games. Zubimendi is a very, very different option to Rice as a 6, so you get stylistic options, and Norgaard's different still with his ground coverage. Eze or Rodrigo, if we get them, totally different options stylistically to what we have right now. We're filling in our skills gaps and lightening the load. We'll never get to 23 or 24 players who are capable of being starters, I don't think. We're not Man City. Mikel even said it himself. There has to be the right competitive balance, the right cooperation. And for all the benefits of tactical flexibility, relationships, continuity, solidity are also beneficial. But if you don't have your 100 to 120 million pound valued star player, why not try two 50, 60 million pound players who can lighten each other's loads? And Berta may have taken inspiration for this from our squad already. Because when you look around, we already have that in certain areas. Ben White and Jurriën Timber, a wiry runner who can time excellent overlapping movements and create space versus a lockdown 1v1 defender with excellent positional sense. Choose your fighter. Miles and Calafiori, two left fullbacks with very different behaviours in the final third and very different skill sets over the shoulder. Odegaard and Waneri, a slow it down, pick a pass, thread a ball, run hard right 8 versus a first time, receive on the half turn, deal with contact, get a shot off right 8. Whether this was all in Edu's plans, we'll never know. But it feels like very quickly over the course of the summer, through development and signings and players coming back from injury and so on, we've arrived at a team with pillars and a load of places with complementary pairings across the board. This is all on paper, it needs testing and developing, and obviously this will come out in future windows too. But it at least makes sense to me. And physically, it's not lost on me we're signing a high volume runner in Norgaard, a high volume runner in a different way in Gyökeres, a 1% athlete in certain senses with Mosquera, and a brilliant athlete in Madueke, while letting the likes of Jorginho and Tomiyasu go. We're preparing the squad to go the distance physically, technically, and tactically, and meet Mikel's demands. Having two genuinely brilliant options in each position is something we're not used to as Arsenal fans. We're trying not to go, yeah, fine, but who is the starting player? Because that's always been the way. But when you're looking at a three-man midfield trying to fit in all of, potentially, Reinders, Rodri, Nico, Kovacic, Foden, Gundogan, Cherki, O'Reilly and Oscar Bob at City, or a three-man forward line trying to fit in currently Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinny, Mastantuono, Gula, Brahim, Garcia and Endrick at Madrid, and expecting to match that and beat them, maybe we need to think about it differently. Even just in the volume of deals we're doing, something has shifted. If we end up doing 7 deals, ironically, the last time we did that was when Mikel Arteta arrived at the club in 11-12. Let's return to my gorgeous graphic to finish. What do we need to add to the group to achieve this utopia of squad building Mikel is aiming for? Right now, confirm Gyökeres, and then we need one more left-sided forward, I think, probably with a sale of Martinelli or Trossard. And then I think we've got a very, very good, balanced squad. Move on Sambi, Zinchenko, potentially Reece, but there's a conversation there. Vieira, Hein, and whoever the left wing sale is. Then get Saka and Saliba tied down. And if Martinelli is staying, you need to renew him to stop the value tanking. So there you have it. Mikel's aims and what I think are Berta's potential executions. Squad building is tough. Playing Football Manager in our heads or going, just sign good players, it's not that simple. The reality is you have to consider contracts, pathways, profiles, complements, game states, ages, skill sets, relationships, practicalities, and so much more. It's tough, but something this summer feels a little bit different. And if Mikel is to be believed, it sounds like they want it to be. Thanks so much for watching. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon and get ad-free early access to each video for just £3 a month. Or for one-time support, you can buy us a coffee. Links are in the description.